Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. I've never said this before, Tuesday.
You've never said Happy Tuesday?
Not on our live stream. Happy Tuesday, everybody. We are so excited because we are going to be having Green Party presidential candidate Dr. Jill Stein joining us shortly, but she is not yet here. So thank you all for joining us on this day while we await Dr. Stein. How are you, Pat?
I'm just checking the chat here. I thought she was going to be here right away, so I wouldn't have to have any of this banter stuff that I hate doing. But I recommend that people in the chat bring their questions, because if we get stuck, we're happy to ask anything. And if you have a more intelligent question than what I could come up with, which I'm guessing you all do, let's go with that.
You don't want to tell us about your week?
Lila and I we were pre-gaming and discussing our week, and it's like we both have hospice stories this week, so it's kind of depressing. We're going to leave that alone.
It's a bit of a rough week all around here, but we're going to push through, and it's another reason that we are always, as always, very happy to be here with all of you. All of a sudden I realized I had just a couple more things I wanted to add, and it looks like we actually do have room in there, so I'm adding this one.
Multitasking?
I am multitasking.
This is a perfect time to do a misogyny somehow. I don't know what the joke is, but my man brain can only single focus on things where you can do this multitasking stuff.
I know. I just added a couple clips. I feel like maybe we just need to start with something fun, or do you want me to tell you quickly about? I feel like I just need to vent about my week.
I was supposed to ask. Hello, hi, Lila. Good to see you. How you doing?
He's a little off.
How are the kids, the dogs?
I taught him on Wednesdays how to do the social niceties, but we haven't done it yet. Things have been better, but we're plowing through. I say, as we're waiting, and sorry, you guys, I'm checking my email just to make sure that there's no problems with our with the link. And I did just get a notification. There we go. Give me 1 second. I'm going to figure out what's going on. Pat, you got to regale the audience. Put your head up. What are you doing?
Oh, I'm just reading Twitter. But from Jason, and
she's coming. She is coming. He had to resend the link. Okay, good.
We didn't rickroll you guys. We should play the rick. We built an audience. I got you.
Psychomolly. We are.
Which reminds me, did you actually see that guy that rickrolled? I don't know what state it was in, but he had a drone. You know those drones that go up and do firework displays in the sky.
Yeah.
But they're not fireworks. It's just digital. So he had this great display, and at the end of it, there was a barcode to scan, and they scanned it, and it played Rickroll.
Oh, that's awesome!
So the whole state got Rickrolled.
That's actually kind of excellent and kind of horrible. It sounds like some kind of I have a dog here. Some kind of medieval torture to do that to a whole city. Where was it?
I don't remember. But there were bridges and there was water. Does that help?
Yeah. Speaking of, we could just go to one of the worst stories of the week and just start it off if we wanted to do that.
That's too depressing.
We're not going to do that.
Actually thank our new members.
Let's see. Look at that. Yes, that's what we should do. Do you want to put up there?
All our members here, much appreciated. We wouldn't be doing a second show. We wouldn't probably have Dr. Jill Stein on.
That's right.
Without your support.
We are starting this coming Sunday. We're going to give it a shot on Sunday at 5:00 Pacific, 8:00 Eastern. I know that might be rough for some people, but we're going to start it then this Sunday. What is that? The 31st, right before April Fool's. Hi, Dr. Stein. We're going to bring you on.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry for the delay.
No worries. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Lila. This is Pat. We are so thrilled to have you on.
Likewise. And this is Willie. He'll be peeking in. And
Willie.
Wait a minute. Look at that comment right there. We were already warned about your cat. That's awesome.
Yeah. My cat is very camera friendly. So
that's very, very sweet.
Yeah. He has a lot of opinions. So
lots of opinions.
Yeah. So stand by.
I can't wait to hear them. So we were planning on showing your campaign video before we introduced you, but I don't, it's 3 minutes. I don't know if you feel like, is that all right if we,
Oh,
if we go ahead
sure.
and do that? It's so
Yeah.
great, and it kind of puts it all out there.
It does, yeah. After that,
Okay.
I don't need to say very much, yeah.
Stuff it. No, but it's just wonderful. It's a great introduction, and then we can just kind of delve into everything.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Sounds good. Okay. All right. Here we go. So we are so thrilled to have Dr. Stein here. And this is her campaign video. Here we go.
People are tired of being thrown under the bus by wealthy elites and their bought politicians. Tired of living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to pay the rent, locked in student debt and medical debt, child poverty doubling, rising diseases of despair, growing hopelessness. The political system is broken. The two Wall Street parties are bought and paid for. Over 60% of us now say the bipartisan establishment's failed us, and we need a party that serves the people. I'm Jill Stein, and I'm running for president to offer that choice for the people outside of the failed two-party system. We'll put solutions to the crises we face: crushing inequality, endless war, and climate collapse. And we'll put these front and center in this election and on the ballot across the country. The ruling parties that got us into this mess aren't getting us out. Both parties are squandering trillions on the endless war machine, fueling conflict around the world, while tens of millions here at home lack food, housing, healthcare. Democrats have betrayed their promises for working people, youth, and the climate again and again, while Republicans don't even make such promises in the first place. And both parties are a danger to our democracy, expanding censorship, criminalizing protest, throwing competitors off the ballot, suppressing debates, American people who've been systematically locked out of these debates, rigging their primaries. So forget the pundits and the attack dogs who tell you to ignore your misery and just keep voting for those who caused it in the first place. Change won't come from the ruling elites. It comes from we, the people. And when we stand together, we can create living wage jobs for all Americans. We can guarantee an economic bill of rights with the right to a job, to health care, to housing, to food, education, and more. We can abolish student debt, medical debt. We can create a Green New Deal with millions of jobs to fight climate collapse and protect Mother Earth. And we can ensure our constitutional rights and freedoms and justice for all. We can end the endless wars and rampant militarism and use diplomacy and international law instead to end violence, occupation, and apartheid. We do have the power, and we can use it in this election to start building an America and a world that works for all of us. Go to jillstein2024.com and join us.
That's wonderful. It's so inspiring and gives me hope, which is one of the few places of hope I think any of us have anymore. So first of all, thank you for running again.
Thank you. We're a team here,
Yeah.
What else can we do?
And, I'm sure you're seeing the comments. I mean, people are so excited and thrilled by you, and everyone wants to exit the duopoly in our audience. My first question, because I agree with your whole platform, I adore you. One of my biggest regrets is that in 2016, after working really hard for Bernie, I stupidly swallowed the Kool-Aid and cast my last vote for a Democrat for Hillary, and then, got yelled at and blamed anyway for the next 7 years.
That's why I was a smart one. You had my vote. So,
All right.
just putting
No,
it out
I'm
there.
so embarrassed to even admit that. It took me that long. But my question is, for the people who continue to lob these bad faith arguments, either there's only the politics explainers. It's either going to be Trump or Biden. So, why would you waste a vote? I hate that, but that's one of the things. Or, even if you were elected, how would you get all this done? How are you going to pay for it? All those sorts of things. How do you engage with that level of ignorance? And it feels willful at this point.
Yeah. So, sometimes the right thing is to just move on and to talk to people who are not locked in and
Right.
who, like there's a saying, I forget the author, a famous socialist author a novelist, made the comment that it's hard to convince a man of something when he's paid, not to understand it.
Right.
And in my experience, especially, it's economic elites, it's people who are comfortable where they are, or they have a special job in the Democratic Party universe,
Right.
network, et cetera. And so they're not going to move. But it's, there are so many people who are ready to go, It's like, according to the polls, there are twice as many who now identify as independent as either Democrat or Republican. The numbers who are screaming for, give me an alternative, that's like 63%. It's at a record high. You have now, you have the Muslim Americans really leading the charge and breaking away with an incredible moral vision and a moral imperative. How do people not hear that? I don't know. You have 1,000 Black ministers who are saying, we need to really seriously think about this too, abandoning Biden. So, the rebellion is out there and it's in full swing. And, it's kind of a question of what's our strategy politically. You don't want to waste your breath talking to people who are already where you are, or to people who you're never going to move. That said, there are a lot of people who will move, and it's worth going through the litany. And I usually do go through the litany before I throw in the towel. And, we have a number of videos on this as well.
Yeah.
I strongly recommend. They're on our social media pages. But, for what it's worth, there are a number of arguments like that no one owns your vote. And any candidate who tries to talk you into that they're entitled to your vote, they don't deserve consideration. They have really eliminated themselves, as far as I'm concerned, from being realistic considerations to start with. So reminding people that no one owns their vote, it's like, really, do we have to do that? But some people are just so conditioned, they're so propagandized, they're so beaten down.
Yeah.
It's like being in an abusive relationship,
Yes.
and it's like having the courage to break up and walk away from a relationship that's hopeless and that is destroying you. Sometimes it's just a matter of reminding people how they're being needlessly destroyed. The fear mongering is a big part of it. And the Trump derangement syndrome is a big part of it. I think the genocide helps break through that, because there's hardly more, compelling symbol of fascism than genocide, than, censorship, than immigrant bashing and xenophobia, which, Biden said it in his,
Absolutely.
his State of the Union speech, and he's adopting the policies. He wants to build a wall, so it's like the politics of fear has brought us everything we were afraid of. All the reasons we were told you had to vote for a Democrat because you didn't want, people tearing down Medicare and destroying our right to health, and just the whole 9 yards across the board, nuclear weapons and their proliferation, the savage attack on the climate. If you actually look at what Biden is doing, not what he's
worse.
And Trump, you don't get worse than 22 liquid natural gas export facilities, which the Sierra Club has documented. This is like kicking us back to 2005 levels of
Right.
CO2 emissions. This undoes all our progress. I haven't heard of anything that Trump is doing or proposes that comes anywhere near that. That is probably the single most destructive act to the climate that one can imagine. And when you hook that up with Biden's sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline, which created the market, then, so there are all those high fives, work, now we have a whole new market. They're producing now lots of methane for that market. After they spilled the biggest methane spill ever in history, it was either Biden or it was somebody that Biden gave the thumbs up to, but there's no doubt.
We'll never know because we're not investigating anymore.
But there is,
which is the most incriminating thing of all.
Of course, disgusting.
That
there
kind
is
of
no real
where it's coming from.
There's no real opposition to the Republican Party is why I see the Greens as so important, because the Democrats, now they're celebrating that they tried to give Republicans everything they wanted on immigration and they wouldn't take it. Like, that's a victory that we
like a fascist
so
border
far
bill
that we gave them everything they wanted. And and so my question to you is, I think a lot of people that you can reach are leery because they think you can't win. So let's just say you can't win. Like, hypothetically, I won't say that out loud. I apologize. Take that back.
He's about to get fired from the show.
Yeah, I'm canceled. But can you express the value of running as an opposition candidate, even if you weren't to win, the value that your candidacy brings to the table?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like a no-brainer. Usually if you're going to walk a mile, you start by walking 10 feet first, and so you have to come up in the polls. Your numbers have to come up. And if there is no lesser evil, if we have two greater evil candidates, what exactly is the harm in standing up for your values? A democracy doesn't direct itself. It needs direction from somewhere. It's not going to get direction from the parties of war and Wall Street if we don't speak up and articulate our values and our priorities. And if we don't fight for them, it's hopeless. Think of the words of Frederick Douglass: power concedes nothing without a demand. We have to define that demand, or call it a moral compass, or call it whatever you want. But democracy needs that. It doesn't exist in a vacuum of values. We have to bring our values to this. So all of that is served by standing up and running. And if we get to 5% this time, then we have a whole lot of funding in the next presidential race. I think it's around $20 million, something like that. It might be more than that now. That's nothing compared to the $1 billion races that the major parties run. But, we don't have the corruption that comes with that. It's going to cost us about $1 million to get on the ballot, maybe $2 million. It's going to cost RFK somewhere between 18 and 20 million because we're a grassroots campaign. We do things differently. So $20 million means a lot to us. So I've become very intolerant of, not to say that we shouldn't talk about it, but I'm so not impressed, when people don't get this and they're stuck in their little boxes. I feel so sorry for those people that their brains have just kind of shut down. Oh, and there's one other argument that I really suggest. It's not even an argument. It's facts. It's really important to point out to people, what was the most spoiled election ever for Democrats? It was the 2010 midterms. What happened? They lost 1,000 legislative seats across the country, 64 congressional seats, 12 Senate seats, and 13 governorships. Where was the third party that they blamed this on, the spoiled elections? No third party there. Yep. This was the Democrats basically spoiling it for themselves by throwing working people under the bus. They've been doing that for a long time, but they really did it, in 2008 when you had a Democratic trifecta in the White House and both houses of Congress, and they were very busy bailing out Wall Street. When the public didn't want them to do that, that's what they did, and they threw out millions of homeowners. And that on top of, Clinton and NAFTA and the loss of millions of jobs, people were really pissed. And that's how our voting system works, if we allow it to. It's about who do you hate the most? And actually, it was Hillary Clinton, who won that, who we hate the most in 2016. So people were voting for Trump, not because they were for Trump, but because they were really pissed at Democrats. So to my mind, these are all just no-brainer, overwhelming reasons why we need to, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We need to be that democracy. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. If you don't want a democracy, good luck to you. And, just, hold on to your hat, because you're in for a whole lot of trouble. We're not going to get out of this mess unless we fight our way out, and we've got to be part of that fight. Silencing yourself doesn't get us anywhere. And that's
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and this party that is allegedly running on preserving democracy, stopping fascism. I mean, speak to the ballot the efforts they've made over the years to keep Greens off the ballots, just for an example.
Which is that
saving democracy?
Be a lot of your funding, I would assume, is having to take on DNC lawyers who are going to challenge every signature. Is that what happens in every state?
We are expecting that, and that's what they just came out the other day in the New
Right.
York Times. And then there was something before that. I don't know, might have been Politico or Yahoo News. I'm not sure. But
Right.
there have been several leaks, purposeful leaks. And it's hard to believe, how clueless can they be?
They know how to fight. They just want to fight you. They don't want to fight the people they're supposed to be opposing. They want to clear out the left to pave the way for total fascism, right?
And to think that they're actually saying the quiet part out loud here, because this is really embarrassing, and it's incriminating to say that this is what they're doing by intent. It's just jaw dropping, and it reminds you kind of that we've got real idiots here, running the show and in the driver's seat, and we can do this. One other thing I wanted to point out was that we're going to have 4 pro-genocide candidates between Trump, Biden, RFK, and No Labels, a fake AstroTurf non-party. These are going to be 4 well-funded pro-genocide campaigns. They're all going to be splitting the pro-war vote. It's hard to say how that split's going to go, but it will have 4 competitors. On the other hand, there's only going to be one campaign to look at how it's going. There will be one pro-worker, anti-war, anti-genocide, climate emergency campaign that's on the ballot broadly, challenging empire and contesting across the country. There is exactly one of us that has a track record and that is on track right now to do this. So we may have one unifying campaign for the left at the end of the day. There are wonderful voices out there in addition to our campaign, but they don't have a track record or really the wherewithal to get on the ballot broadly. So we are, by all indicators, we're the one option for fighting empire and oligarchy. This could be a very unifying fight. Empire and oligarchy may have 4 candidates that could be splitting their vote. When you have a 5-way split, when you have 5 competitors, the race could be won with far less than a majority, far less than 30%. Technically, it could be won with as little as 21%. That's not to say that's how the vote is going to go, but that is to just remind us that we have every reason to stand up here and fight, not only like our lives depend on it, because they do, and the future depends on it, and having a climate we can survive in and an economy we can survive in and all the rest, that depends on this fight. But also, it's never been more possible than it is right now. This is really the perfect storm in all kinds of ways. So don't listen to, the predators and the pundits and the politicians who are basically just, telling you to take marching orders from them. There's every reason to think that we are major actors here in taking charge of our future. We have every reason to do that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the year, it feels, has the biggest opening for you and your voice and your platform, because as you said, I mean, okay, so first of all, I see no difference really between Biden and Trump, except that Biden enjoys no pushback from mainstream media. Right away, the death ticker for COVID disappeared, and people, I think, the one thing that I think Democrats have done really well is imbue their voters with a sense of moral rectitude for voting for that party. So even when Biden does the exact same thing or worse than Trump, I will hear from liberals all the time, well, but he really means well, but he's a good person. He tries. When Biden does it, it's different from when Trump builds the wall and bypasses 26, environmental laws. And so that, to me, is the hardest thing, though, because the media is really intent, corporate media, on sustaining this duopoly and pretending that there's a big difference between red and blue. And that, and I'm sorry to keep coming back to liberals, but I do feel like they are the biggest impediment to progress because they have been so propagandized. They think that they're knowledgeable because they read the New York Times or watch MSNBC. And, does anybody invite you on or interview you from those places without the snide comments? Like, do you ever feel like you're getting a fair shot when you speak to any of the legacy journalists?
Very few. There are a couple.
Right.
And I have to say, when I've done print media interviews, because TV's been pretty shut down to us. News Nation did a couple of interviews, but they are very pro-Zionist, so they've kind of shut us out once that got going. So there are very few, like TV, cable.
Right.
Some of the alternatives will interview us, and we've had some, really good interviews, and we have reason to think there are some coming up. I've had some great interviews with print media journalists, really in many places. Never the New York Times; they're like uniformly brain dead.
Got to get their wars. Yeah.
But like Politico. There's several others that aren't like top of mind at the moment.
Yeah.
But this race is really different because in the past they would like really be out to just smear us from the get-go, and it was really obvious. This time I feel like I'm talking to a different generation of reporters who know what it means now to be on the receiving end of empire and oligarchy. So suddenly,
and I feel like you must have, even within these organizations that are normally against you, you have allies who support the red line against genocide. And I think that's an in on some level with groups that would normally push you out.
Yes. And what we're seeing especially now is people who are coming over and joining the campaign, just activists, people who've been Democrats for their whole life and have been active Democrats. They're falling like flies right now, and that's really exciting to see. We have not been beating down the doors of organizations, nonprofits. They're pretty timid anyhow in races. I have to say the Muslim community has been just amazing, and we've been very active. Every time we visit a new city, usually we're connecting with the mosque, and they are very, it's really wonderful to see them discovering their power of democracy and them breaking away from their abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And
it was interesting to see their abandoned Biden movement co-opted by Democrats to become uncommitted, which was, and there are still so many who, when they are interviewed, maintain abandoned Biden in spite of the Democratic leadership who sort of tried to co-opt it and rename it.
Yeah, that's so
in
true.
The primaries only.
Yeah, exactly. In the primaries, we'll still come back. Exactly.
And that's kind of like a big question, and it's a big debate, I think, right now in the Muslim community. How are they going to deal with this? And I think, it has slowed some things down, but some are really ready to go. It's very interesting to see how a kind of political liberation spreads, and courage is contagious, and people really get, the elected leadership. They're not opening up like the mayor of Dearborn and stuff. We were there, and they did not want to meet with us. Maybe that will change, but that's the way it is for now.
That's disappointing, actually. I thought you were going somewhere else with that sentence. I got excited, and then I realized what you said.
They are definitely not ready, but others in the community definitely are.
Right.
And, it's anybody's guess now, how this is going to roll out. Is it because
it really is a politics of fear, right? And so until the elected officials, until the corporations are fearful, which, the story is that that's sort of what helped FDR get his capitalist posse in line, was that they're going to come for you with pitchforks. which I feel like, we talk about this all the time. And I know, obviously you do, all these cop cities, the crackdown on protests, they are scared. But right now they have the weaponry to keep people in line and to discipline people to a certain level. Where is that going to lead us? What do you think is going to happen there?
Well, I think that is, very scary. I think this is part of what's in play right now. I think empire is in play, and the heavy hand of political repression here at home, which is, joined at the hip with empire. All of this is in play. I think that's what Gaza really is. Gaza is the tip of the iceberg of militarism. Israel was described by Caspar Weinberger, the defense for Reagan. Israel is the unsinkable battleship for America in the Middle East. What does that mean? This is how we control the oil supply, is what that means. And this is America's foreign policy, also known as full spectrum dominance. After the fall of the Soviet Union, this was the explicit name given to U.S. policy, that we will dominate all areas of the world, all spheres of competition, and no powers will be allowed to rise, even on a regional basis. This is kind of the mindset of the U.S. empire. This is why we fight war after war that we lose in a catastrophic way. According to Brown University Cost of War Project, we have killed about 4 million people, some estimated at 6 million, in the wake of 9/11. These wars. We also have so-called anti-terror operations in 85 countries around the world now. This is just like jaw-dropping what's going on, much of it absolutely undercover. So this is not a world that we can survive in. This is not a world that can survive. This is a world that's heading for conflict, and here our government and Joe Biden are looking for it. Will we get it in China? How far can we push the envelope in Ukraine? And then you have the Middle East. So we really have 3 flagrant conflicts that could all go nuclear and all, kind of take us down. This is not a world we can live in. And it's also impoverishing us here at home, consuming more than half of our congressional budget. And, to your point about the repression and militarization of police and all that, this latest budget, I don't know if you follow Steven Sundberg.
I do. I have so many of his graphics we're putting up later. Yeah.
Yeah. And his analysis of this budget, this 2024 fiscal year budget, I forget what the number is, but it's 1.1 trillion being spent on military and security and the security state here at home. Yep. And he gave a percentage to it. It's somewhere around 62 or 64%. It's not 50%. It's not kind of the conventional wisdom that it's half. It's getting to be 2/3 of our budget. So this doesn't work, while tens of millions do not have homes, are on the verge. Homelessness and evictions are at an all-time high. You had
schools and libraries and
people are tearing their hair out.
And the Democrats are now running tough on crime. They've just embraced the right-wing rhetoric completely.
Unbelievable.
And they set up a system for the fascist. If they're so worried about the fascists taking over, the plan is we're going to provide them with militarized cops. Yeah. And then what? We just have to win Democrats just have to win forever. So once you put that all in place,
yes,
that is really horrifying.
And it's horrifying the way it's all being mechanized and, robot dogs and,
oh my God.
And
which also feels like what Israel is, right? A test ground for all of the military weapons.
Exactly. But, the counterweight to this is that in spite of all of this, we are, gaining real traction around Gaza, and fighting the empire head on. And it's like people are geniuses, and they figure out ways to to avoid the the heavy hammer, and people are disrupting Biden's appearances all over the place. It's made it impossible for him to campaign. He couldn't even get to the
State of the Union on time, right?
Hysterical what's happening.
Canceling college campuses. I mean, come on, for a Democratic candidate, that's insanity.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I would
it's
think
incredible. So it's really important to recognize, and another quote here from Alice Walker, the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. We have it, we're using it, we're seeing it work. Why did the US abstain from, blocking the Security Council vote?
Right.
Is because we are making it impossible for them to conduct their genocide. And as far as I'm concerned, if we are so lucky as to turn the White House into a greenhouse, that the job of the president in our administration will be organizer in chief, and it will be helping to coordinate our participation, our ownership in democracy, and instructing our elected officials what it is that they have to do, shaming them into town hall meetings, congressional hearings, and all the rest, so that the truth can have out, and so that people can exert their small d democratic power over their elected officials. So while on one hand, fascism and scary, robotics and AI are merging with militarism, and it's horribly Orwellian and super scary. On the other hand, we still have enormous power, and we have ingenuity about where and how to use it, and people are doing that, and we're going to keep doing that.
So,
I think,
sorry, go ahead,
I just wanted to say, I think the genocide really lays bare how little impact voting does, and how little, not voting per se, but how little putting your faith in Democrats to do something that the people support. Because like that Harvard poll ages ago shows that Princeton, how much the public supports an issue has no bearing on whether politicians support it at all. And it's just so openly obvious to a lot of people that didn't see this before.
Yeah, it really is. And it's hitting home in so many ways. Were you going to say something, Layla?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Stein.
I like to cut her off. I do misogyny every show.
The second half of our show, we spin a wheel, we talk about the topics of the week, and we drink too much, and we poke fun at each other. We're trying to be a little more professional in front of you right now. I think also one of the things that you just said that was exciting for many of us who were awakened by Bernie in 2016 and 2020 was the power of the people, and the 99% versus the 1%. And then, we saw 2018 and AOC and Bring the Ruckus. And I was giving, not a lot, but, small amounts of money to 20 different candidates every month. And I was so enthusiastic. And then when Bernie shut it down, and when I saw that even though some of the squad doesn't take corporate money, but they always fall in line to vote with the people who do, and the inside-outside strategy, and not talking to left media, and not trying to activate the base, not using COVID as a way to energize the country, an overwhelming majority of whom wants Medicare for all. Like, why wouldn't we, that just dropped, and everybody in office fell in line. And you have been outside of that mainstream political, one big party atmosphere, which again brings hope, because I think so many people see when someone's running as a Democrat, even though they might say, no, I'm on the outside, it just doesn't ever work out that way. So
we have no examples of them actually staying on the outside. It's
just never happened. So that is thrilling to hear. And also, I want to take a moment also to thank you again for coming on our small show. That's amazing. And we're so grateful, but it does show that you want to keep that connection with your base.
And it's our only hope, because if we are so fortunate as to get into the White House, and in my view, that's not the only way to win this. There are many ways to win. You win simply by engaging the fight and by building the movement. You win. But if we were to get into the White House, it would be hopeless for us if we didn't, because we don't have other sponsors. We don't have corporate sponsors, big pharma, health insurance, fossil fuels. They don't sponsor us. Our APAC, yeah, right.
Right. Yeah.
Weapons profiteers, that's not our thing. And we would be high and dry. And why, I'm not like at that point in my life and my career where I need to be a politician. Yeah.
people in the halls with you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm doing this really for my kids, for all
Yeah.
kids, because
Yeah.
otherwise they're screwed. And
Yeah.
as a parent, it's just really hard to see the world going down the tubes and not, I so relate to the parents in Gaza, whose kids are starving,
Yeah.
It's just unthinkable. So yeah, at any rate, to your point, this is about our fight, and as far as I'm concerned, this is the fight of our lives.
Yeah.
I was a, I was a clinician. I was a medical doctor, and then I got involved in more and more like community work. And I got very involved in studying toxic threats to like help clarify what is dangerous to us, kind of this emerging, just kind of peeking up above the horizon, this knowledge about, what's dioxin and pesticides and all these things with weird names. And, and you don't see it actually. You have to kind of study the language for years in order to read this stuff. But I was really pissed off when as a nursing mother, I heard that, oh, there's this stuff called dioxin in your breast milk, and it's not good for anybody, so I just really like dove into studying this stuff and, worked with some really wonderful groups to fight it. And when we succeeded in taking the pesticide called chlorpyrifos off the shelves for consumers, not for farm workers, although that followed eventually. But we got it out of households, basically, which was huge. And I was celebrating at first, and then I thought, okay, one down, 450 to go.
Right.
Work. We got rid of one, and then it's like I began to feel like, okay, I'm just like documenting the demise of our species. It's what I'm doing here. And I had to stop. I couldn't do that anymore because it was just so clear that there's a deeper driver. I got very involved in getting money out of politics in Massachusetts. We passed a clean elections law, which created, public funding for candidates who could show that they were viable, they had a base of support and so on. And it was a really great system. And the legislature, of course, wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, but we, the people, passed it by a 2-to-1 margin in a referendum, by over 60%. It had huge support. And then what happened? Our progressive Democratic legislature repealed it on a voice vote. And to me, it was like, that was the last straw. I was like, okay, I'm not fighting on the issues anymore. I'm fighting the system because it's going to destroy everything that we do. And it was at that point, basically, that I got tricked. Right. I got tricked because I didn't know any better. I said, well, everything else has failed. Might as well descend to that, dark,
That's how Lila got me on this show.
I mean, it is really overwhelming. And it was the first thing that kind of got me a little more radicalized in like 2010 is the environment. And I have 2 kids and just thinking about, my God, what is the future going to be? And then we go from that to COVID to more war and more, it is so overwhelming. And you realize that, just chipping away at one item at a time is never will be dead long before and the crazy thing is to see, and unfortunately I think we're going to take over, but Europe, you look at their shredded wheat, it doesn't have yellow dye in it, even their Fruit Loops, or when England was having mad cow issues, I think about 3 years ago, they refused to take any of our farm animal that we were offering because we have different standards, much lower, so I'm pleased that it still exists in other countries. And yet I feel like as I watch their national health care systems, be obliterated, unless it has to be also international, right? This fight.
Yes. I mean, I think it has to be local. It has to be
state.
It has to be everything. And, I think the more we collaborate, I think the US is a big player here, and we tend to corrupt things a lot. And if we could, grab hold of our government, to me, part of the critical reforms are closing the revolving door between our regulatory agencies and, pharma and, the chemical companies and fossil fuels, they're all regulating themselves, Boeing, the Sackler family,
and the politicians,
the GM,
they don't even care if they lose anymore.
Monsanto.
Yeah.
Right. So that revolving door has to be, and this too, to my mind, this undermines our public health crisis as well, because people no longer have confidence in our regulatory institutions. So they'll just dig in their heels. There is no trust, and you can't get it by demanding it. You have to clean up the system, which means big money out of politics.
Yeah.
It means public funding of campaigns. It means closing the revolving door.
Yeah.
And, the sooner we do that, the better. But if and when we do that, I'm really quite convinced that it's a whole new ball game when you do that, and when you can restore people's faith in our institutions again. We're not there. It's going to take a lot of work to get there.
This is my first presidential campaign where I know so many different people running outside of the duopoly, right? So on some level, that's incredibly encouraging. There's Cornel West. I think a lot of us were hoping that would be a ticket at one point. I'm not sure why that happened. And, I think a lot of us are frustrated and sad that what it feels like with PSL, Socialist Equality Party, there are so many different people running. And I would never do the, Hillary Clinton DNC thing of like, we have to unify, and, any vote that's not for my person is splitting the vote. And yet on some level, I wish that everybody could come together. What's your feeling? Is it, is it more like that? Who has ballot access? Do you feel like at a certain point, some of you who actually have very similar platforms might join forces? Is that too far down the road? I don't know.
It's definitely a possibility. And that's been a conversation ever since we entered the race. And the reason I was compelled to enter the race was because suddenly we had a vacancy and we have all these ballot lines. And, right now we have something like 21, but there are several more states that we're about to turn in signatures for. We hope to be at 25 or so very soon. And basically 75% of the signatures are already gathered. So we have 75% of the work done. It's not 75% of the lines, but it's 75% of the work. So we have the big, difficult states done: California, Texas, Florida.
How many states are you flat out just excluded from? Like nothing you could do would get you on the ballot?
We hope none. There are we have three very difficult battles. It will cost us, if we can raise $1.5 million, it's a done deal. And,
viewers, anyone with $1.5 million?
Even 1,000 will do, 1,000 is really all we can take. Well, you can max out at 3,300.
We'll find a way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, go to our website, because we can do it with $1.5 million. RFK, he's saying he could do it with 18 or 20 million. And for all of his big talk, he's only on in, I think, 3 or 4 states right now, but we're on in a lot. And we had many of these lines already. And this is, to the credit of the state parties, because we are a decentralized grassroots network, for better and for worse.
Right.
But we do have a lot of grassroots power, a lot of people who know how to do this. They've been watchdogging, and you have to use it or lose it. So suddenly when Dr. West decided he wanted to run solo, and we can talk about that, but basically he's a strong solo voice. He always has been. He never had any relationship with a political party. It is very hard to learn that on the fly. As someone who jumped in to a governor level race, not knowing the Green Party, I just jumped in. I couldn't work with the party at all. I mean, we wound up kind of doing our own thing, which you could do at the governor's level, but you definitely can't do at the national level. You need the support of all the parties all over it. So it's really hard to do this without support of a party. But if you're a Democrat, there's a machine and you just plug into the machine, and they sweep you up and they give you a database and they give you staff and, and they raise money for you and it's all done for you. It's not like that in grassroots parties. You really have to kind of learn the ropes. You have to learn who to work with in the party, where the party moves you forward, where they kind of hold you back. You have to learn how to negotiate all this stuff with an organization. It's very difficult to do. So when Dr. West agreed that he would run as a Green, I certainly knew that this was not necessarily going to be a done deal, that this is a leap of faith and you're going to see how it works. And I think it was just way too frustrating for him to
Right.
have to work with all these people who were like wanted to tell him what to do, and he definitely did not want to hear what to do. He wanted to do it his own way, which he is continuing to do, and that's his right.
Right.
But if you have a lot of people who are going to work for you for free, and we jumped in, and we were 24/7 giving up family vacations over the summer. Just it was a total scramble to try to make that campaign work. We poured our heart and soul into it. But at the end of the day, he wanted to be an unencumbered solo voice, because if you've got people working for you, they want to know what your policies are. You're going to have to debate it. It was an issue for him that he was going to be expected to participate in any number of forums and debates. He really didn't like the idea. But the main thing was that we had differences in how we were going to run a campaign. I jumped in as a interim campaign manager, and I'm used to working in a way that, what should we say, gets results. I've seen a gazillion campaigns fall apart, and I know what the warning signs are. And you really need people who have experience. You have to work with people who are experienced. You can't like make it a family-based campaign or a friends-based campaign. And I can see where people want to do that when you have to have a lot of trust.
Right.
It's hard to trust strangers. So I totally get where these different impulses are coming from, but I wasn't there to be a yes man.
Right.
And I think that was not appreciated. And, so I just backed off.
Right.
And so I stepped back from being a campaign manager and really from having any formal role. And then the next thing I heard, and this was maybe 2 months later, maybe more than that, Dr. West had decided, I was called to, I got a phone call, and I was told that they were going to leave the Green Party. Did I want to come with? And I said, well, thanks very much. But, I'm here to build a party. We've been building this party for years.
Right.
We have ballot lines. We got to use those ballot lines. So you should know, if you leave the party, that there's a very good chance that I'm going to be pressured into jumping in, because there aren't many people in this 11th hour who could jump in and get a campaign going. But I've had like people that I work with and know the ropes here, have been fighting the Federal Election Commission nonstop for the last 6 years. Yeah. So I know how to do this. And there's a very high probability that I'm going to be running against you. And, I'm sorry about that, but, I'm here to build this movement. And so they knew what was coming. But they said, no, it's a done deal. It hasn't been announced. It's a done deal. From my point of view, the issues could have been worked out, but there was no interest in doing that. So I think that really hurt Dr. West's feelings that I jumped in and ran. But, that's kind of like, I've spent my life building a political organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just throw that away because somebody has a strong solo voice. For me, it's not a candidate. It's really about the movement.
Absolutely. Okay, so on that note, are you going to choose a VP to run with you soon, or how does that work with the Green Party? Is it voted on amongst all the different states, or how do you progress from here? Yeah.
You may remember in 2016, I had appealed to Bernie to consider actually taking my place, which would have been difficult to do, but maybe not impossible.
That would have, I think, changed everything, actually.
It would have hugely, but he wouldn't even talk to me. So there was like no communication between our campaigns whatsoever. This time, I put out immediately that I would be interested in building a collaboration with Dr. West or potentially with one of the other candidates. And Dr. West, I think, kind of clarified that he wasn't really interested in that. He wanted to kind of go his own way, which he's continued to do, and that's totally fine. But I know that there are other candidates who are probably interested. There are also, just really wonderful voices out there in the Muslim community, in the indigenous community, in the African-American community. So there are wonderful unifying campaigns that could be brought to bear. And all this is under discussion right now.
Right.
But there is, I think, enormous momentum out there to build collaboration across the left. This is not the time to be played into the divide and conquer game, which is where the predator state would like us to be.
Yeah.
And truth to tell, many of us as Greens and socialists have been working on building collaboration for a long time. Starting in 2012, we had an organization called Left Elect, which brought together many socialist parties,
Right.
basically all the non-corporate parties.
Right.
Working families may have even been a part of that, although that's a little bit debatable about their role in this whole thing.
Yeah.
But, many of them are very good-hearted and
Yeah.
well, but just don't understand how that,
Right.
fusion voting is used, basically
Right.
to sort of as a stomping. It's a Trojan horse, basically. It's Trojan horse for.
God, they have so many of them out there, don't they? The Democratic Party, they just thrive on it.
Horses all over the place. But we were starting back in 2012 to build solidarity and collaboration with Socialist Alternative and many
Right.
of the Socialist and Greens largely. And that was going pretty well and building slowly until 2016 when Bernie jumped in. And when Bernie jumped in, that was just like the end of it, and everybody ran to Bernie. And I think people have kind of like finally recovered from that, but everybody's lives are so devastated now, just trying to pay your rent and, be an activist and everything. So it's been harder to build that. But this campaign, this election, I think, is the opportunity to do that. So I'd say stay tuned.
Will you have, sorry, go ahead, Tat, sorry.
Well, I just think a lot of these other parties, when realism sets in that they're not going to get ballot access, I don't see West voters not voting for you largely in the end of the day. So.
And that's kind of our feeling too, that this isn't a debate we have to have. Right. I mean, we don't need, I think it's good for us to all be in forums, but we pretty much agree with each other. Yeah. And, the difference is that we have a track record for getting on the ballot. We know how to do it. It's damn hard, but we do have most of that work behind us. We have more to go. We got basically three really tough states ahead of us. New York, they're really trying to screw us. They, talk about Trojan horses. This was like a poison pill in a budget bill many years ago. They did not like that Howie Hawkins had gotten 5%, I think, and had really given a lot of support to an anti-fracking agenda, and Cuomo had to deal with that. Wasn't happy. Really wanted to be sure that that the Greens, were not a factor, and he introduced, unbeknownst to most people, this change in ballot requirement that increased the number of signatures from somewhere around 30,000, I think, up to 45,000. And when that number of signatures is required, you have to get almost twice as many to be sure that you have that number of valid signatures. So this means collecting at least 80,000, 75, 80,000 signatures, and they shorten the time frame to put it into 6 weeks. So this is like huge. It's an all hands on deck thing. It's a great way, to talk to people, to educate voters, to exercise, democracy, grassroots democracy at its most basic level. I really encourage anybody who wants to come to New York for a week and be a part of this, or a weekend or whatever, or if you live in New York or nearby,
So what's the deadline for this in New York?
So it begins in the middle of April. I forget which date exactly. And then it's 6 weeks after that. So it would be the end of April to mid-May to the end of May.
Well, please recruit us, or at least give us a message, and we'll do our best to get it out to people.
We just got from Georgia big news. Jill passed the goal for matching funds today. We can now file for matching federal funds, and your donations will be doubled up to $250. That is fantastic. Thank you for letting us know. Congratulations. That's very cool.
And that's exactly how we will, get our insurance policy, because raising money then enables us to both coordinate volunteers and to bring on some professional collectors who help take some of the edge off of this. So if people are in a position to be able to contribute, this is amazing. And this is how Bernie really built his movement from, lots and lots of small contributors who were saying, God damn it,
yes,
democracy,
So Sorry.
you won't be, in this case, you won't be jerked around,
Yeah. Yes. I mean, and I'm trying to rifle through some of the comments. There's so many, and everybody wants to say hi. And I'm sorry because it covers your face when I put it up there. But there's so many great comments towards you. One of the things that I think Bernie did do really well was these rallies with people who, like he had a whole team of people who it was that sort of not me, us. And when he was sick, other people could go and give the same speech. And, are you going to be able to start doing rallies or okay. I mean, obviously it takes a lot of money, but do you have any itinerary already, or will you let us know?
We got our first offers actually for people on the ground who have the capacity to basically bring lots of people together. And this is actually coming from the Muslim community, and it's in California. But
we're in California.
Are you? Okay. Well, I know there's going to be a northern and a southern. So there were two of them. So stay tuned, to
I'm Los Angeles and Pat's in Sacramento. So yes,
that's really great. Okay. All right. Terrific. So see you at both of these rallies.
And absolutely. The other thing that I thought, and I know I got a lot of pushback on this, but Bernie did have some big musicians, big actors, famous people. And I think especially because there is this element of fear amongst voters, and it needs to be sanctioned by somebody else before they can jump in. Are you making attempts to try to get sort of some big I don't know, name endorsements kind of deal, like famous people, an actress, a singer, or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And right now, we are kind of in conversation with some people on social media, and we're hopeful that there will be endorsements. Successful people are not the first ones to come out, because they got a lot to lose. And last time around, some of our endorsers were really kind of frightened when the whole Russiagate thing came out. And they really worried about, kind of getting screwed and all that, so Susan Sarandon is someone that I'm really hoping is going to come around. But some of these people made preliminary promises to support Marianne Williamson, who's still hanging in there. Now you could say, where is she going to go with this exactly? I mean, there's not really a future. I'm hoping people will start to be more strategic and realize we have a chance, we have a chance to completely upset the apple cart here, to really turn politics on its head. This is the perfect storm right now.
It really is.
For really concerted organizing. So we're really hoping that strategic people will start thinking about this strategically and get on board sooner rather than later, because there are any number of, influencers and that could really help stir the pot here.
Like you said, you are the only anti-genocide candidate that's going to have ballot access. So to me, that's a winning platform right there. I mean, honestly.
And, so I'm an actress here in Los Angeles, and seeing the outcry, the people who were let go from their agencies. I mean, Susan Sarandon was one of them, just for saying ceasefire, not even for, but that is starting to change. I mean, then of course we saw the backlash through the Oscars, but even there were a few people wearing the pins. There was Mark Ruffalo and some other, it feels like there is an opening, as long as they really understand, because I think a lot of people don't understand that you truly are the only anti-genocide candidate, as much as some people are trying to frame themselves slightly differently. If you chip away just like what, and by the way, and I'm sorry to ask, but I think I read you were raised Jewish.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So was I. So I'm the capo, and I'm, the anti-Zionist Jew, but I do think that is something that helps people who are scared of being labeled, an anti-Semite.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are so many, pitfalls that people can trip over. They're worried about, being perceived as an anti-Zionist, and that's anti-Semitic.
Right. Just go vote for Hamas. I got a bunch of those today. Go vote for Hamas.
Yeah. Exactly. There's a lot of that, you're going to do the Russiagate thing again. Yeah. But it's like, hey, I was investigated for 3 years and I was basically fully exonerated. So we can come up with something new. I sort of feel like we're all being tested right now. It's like, the arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice, right? But it doesn't bend by itself.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. Yeah.
Are we up to this moment? You know,
That's
we're
really
living in the genocide. Are we going to normalize the torture and systematic murder of children? That's the question that's on the table right now. Are we going to allow international law to be dismantled at a time when the American empire is really failing? It is unraveling. We're not going to be top dog. I mean, we're no longer top dog. We're just pretending to be top dog. So we need international law here.
Yeah.
You know, we need for a nuclear war not to be triggered by what's going on in the Middle East right now. You know, we need for adults to be in the room. We need to really throw out these criminal abusers who are in the role right now of defining our lives and the lives of this world. And they're gambling with nuclear weapons and nuclear war all the time, not to mention the climate. They're clueless. They are clueless, and they are, you know, just vacuous and lacking moral direction and insight. They're brain dead, in my view. They're just brain dead. And we need to remove them from power as quickly as possible. We need just kind of a new kind of reboot for the promise of democracy. We've never had it. It's always been flawed. Now it's like in way worse shape, I think, than it's ever been, arguably. And we have to stand up and make this better. It's not going to happen by itself, but this is the moment to do that. You know, we need to be strategic and challenge power right now. As Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has and it never will. We got to be
Between
that.
We're not genocide, the cost of living, the housing costs, the lack of health care, the no COVID protections, I mean, it just goes on. And there's so much to wake people up to now that if you get them on one issue, it might be enough to get them to see the whole big picture.
Yeah.
And that's the hope.
Yeah, exactly. And all these things are so connected, and we can help people connect the dots. You know, when you become a news junkie, like so many of us are, you know, you pay a lot of attention when you're fortunate enough to be able to follow this stuff. There's a lot that we can share, you know, with a lot of people, and people are so hungry now for conversations where they can talk to people who don't smell like a rat. Most people involved in the political process really smell like a rat, especially if you're up close to them. And so, you know, actually having contact with people is very, uplifting and informative and very kind of community building right now.
Right.
And this is just like basic human dialogue here that's happening. And it's very exciting how this really has the potential to transform our world. And it is transforming our world. You know, the fact that the U.S. abstained, in
Absolutely.
that Security Council, that says we are actually, you know, we are winning the day here, not to mention, you know, 68% of the vote going back to one of the earliest, polls.
We're managing to make things not worse, but we're not making it better. You know what I mean? Like, we're not making substantial changes to people's healthcare. I mean, our voices are getting heard, but it's not enough. And anyone waiting for this system to save them it's fool's gold. It's not happening. We need something big and dramatic and a big change.
And if you do look at some of the parameters, you know, it is getting worse, you know, like climate is going down the tubes, even when the Democrats are pretending, you know, with their false solutions. And, you know, Obama and his all of the above, which is basically what Biden's policy is, things are getting very much worse rather quickly. You know, the oceans are kind of dying. We are in the 6th grade extinction. You know, you can go on, and it's pretty alarming.
But the people power is where it is.
It is. And, you know, if you look at even like racial disparities, they're actually worse than they were in 1960, in the 60s, that in fact, African Americans have a smaller slice of the pie, the average household, than it did before, you know, so.
Thanks, Obama. No. Yeah.
Well, that's true. That's really true. And it's been a steady slide. So I think it's really true that we can make this better, and we don't have to participate in the whitewash of the system as it exists. There's every reason for us to demand an America and a future that works for all of us. And, to harness the power that Alice Walker talks about when she says that the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. We have it. We got to use it. If ever we had to, this is that moment of, dire necessity and really just unstoppable possibility. This is that moment right now. And
Amen.
Yeah.
Dr. Stein, I'm realizing we have kept you over an hour, and I promised that we would allow you to let you off the hook after an hour. So that was actually a beautiful way to end. Is there anything else you want to say? Yep, there we go. Before you take off, is there any, we'll definitely look out for your appearances, anybody who can help donate or gather signatures, but anything else you want to leave us with before you go?
I think you covered the bases, just that it's been wonderful to visit with you and connect with you. And I look forward to more of it.
Thank you.
Forward. And thank you for your inspiration and your information. It's been really great to hang with you for an hour. And I look forward to
Thank you. Well, you are welcome back anytime. We might have to have you. I don't know if you're a drinker or a weed partaker, but the second half of the show is where we all let our hair down. So when you're under a little bit less stress in your life, we'd love to have you come back and hang out. But even before that, we would love it. Thank you.
And I hope to see you in California at the rally.
Absolutely. You can count on it.
Yeah, let's do a live show or something.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold you to that now. I'm writing it down. Thank you.
All right. Really wonderful to be with you. Okay.
Cheers.
All best. Be
Take
well.
Care.
Bye-bye.
That was amazing. What a lovely woman who has such a long track record of fighting for everybody. Finally, for the first time in quite a while, I'm feeling a bit of hope. I need hope. That was pretty awesome.
Don't turn it to me. I'm going to kill your hope right away.
I know. I see it. Don't do it. I need to start drinking.
No. Look, I think there's tremendous power in building the Greens up, and whatever comes of her campaign, it's going to lead to something good that Bernie didn't harness. I think the Green Party and Jill can harness whatever comes of this campaign to make something that lasts beyond the campaign. So, and I didn't want to get into Cornel West with her on the air, but he's flubbed his opportunity.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make a soundbite where she's.
No, I know. That's why I didn't want to get like gossipy. We try hard not to. I do want to, before we move on to anything else, and as Brianna Joy Gray says, yuck my yum. I do want to just thank.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know. Like, don't harsh.
Yuck my yum.
Don't harsh on my parade. I want to thank Georgia, who is working I got to get on my terms right, Dr. Stein for her 2024 run, and also friend of the show who has been on. Hi, Georgia, and thank you for becoming a member.
Cole Washington. Hoo-hoo.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I should go back. I know. Sorry. I feel like I'm rushed trying to get to everybody.
State Medicare for all. I support it. Absolutely.
Yes.
100%. Good luck. Ballot initiatives.
Red Berets. Mine's on my
since we got nothing
there.
going nationally.
Devin, thank you so much. Yes, we do love Dr. Jill Stein, a real doctor, not a Dr. Jill Biden doctor. Thank you, Reflect the Sun. Awesome donation, and also gifting more memberships. Thank you. You all are amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I feel like right away I'm going to call an audible.
Button, aren't you?
Yeah, I got to push that shot button. I really do. We didn't get to talk about my week. I couldn't tell you all the crap I've been dealing with. All right, cheers. Cheers.
Oh, Dr. Jill Stein didn't get to see my cat. Dang it.
Oh,
Strike just popped up and said, "What's up?"
Aw, look at that.
And bit me. So
very cute. I love it. And bit you? Damn it.
But
right.
That's just par for the course.
You need a cat trainer.
Should we do the wheel first?
I don't know. Let's
Get
do
this
something.
thing started?
Yeah, let's get the thing started. All right. I need to, of course, I got pushed off of our. Oh my
so you gotta
God! I have
pull up
to.
the-
I have to
I'll play
reset it up
I'll
again.
play our intro and we'll get rolling here in a second.
Okay. So.
Look at
All
that.
right,
You made
look
it.
at that, and I got the wheel back on time. Look at me! Oh my God, I need a
Skills.
raise.
Good job.
All right, should we just spin it?
Yeah. Let's spin it.
Okay,
Let's-
and then
let's
we'll get to all of
started.
our topics. But let's
Yeah,
do a little cleanse. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, baby.
We probably have some Stein folks watching who've never seen our show. So.
Look at that! You see what just happened?
Well, I think we should explain to people we both can only tolerate talking politics if there's alcohol and something else involved. I'm strictly alcohol here, but
Yeah, I am too. I wish I could do the weed because after I drink all my vodka shots and my vodka diet tonic, I have my bottle of wine ready to go here just in case the show goes long. But for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, Pat and I started this show because we wanted to be able to talk politics, but also because we were so distraught, have a little bit of joy in there. And we thought, what better way to find joy than at the bottom of a bottle? And so we
sprinkle it with little videos of whatever the wheel says.
But we still also deal with, the topics of the week, as you saw, which we will get to. All right. So wait, we're doing our next shot.
Oh, I already did my shot.
You did your second one?
Wait. Oh, it landed on a shot?
It landed on shot, dude. You got to play by the rules.
Well, another thing new viewers should know is I don't listen to Lila. She says something I probably wasn't paying attention.
Fun. That's fun. And then he has StreamYard kick me out. I had my screen freezes. All right, sure. This is my little punch up pod shot glass.
Oh, so we have to wheel it again. We don't have anything yet.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna. Oh my God. All right. Here we go.
Yeah, baby.
Nice. Right to the timeline cleanse. I'm gonna remove that from the wheel.
All right.
And
Timeline cleanse.
let's see what we got.
The baby's race name is Lila. I really think this should be a betting thing.
Oh my God. This is so frustrating. This feels too much like my normal life.
I was thinking that was Josh for a second. Please touch it, Lila. Lila, touch it.
That's funny. That's funny. I thought it was Milo.
I think it's Lila.
Lila? All right. Well, then I understand why she's so obstinate. Oh my God.
Come on.
Oh my God. This really is my life. This wrangling cat.
Where are you going?
Oh. Okay, I have to say though, the saddest part of this was the way they the parent finally got the winning child,
Was
toddler,
it
baby.
The phone? It was the phone, right?
Oh,
Like the
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's how all parents control their kids with the phone now. Phone access is everything.
Phone access is everything. When we first started allowing our kids to play video games, I think my older son at the time was like 9, and he had to read an hour on a weekend. He could only play video games on weekends and had to read an hour before he was allowed half an hour of video game time. And then by the time we allowed Xander to play video games, we were just like, yeah, just go. I can't.
The value of the devices is taking away the devices. So
that's right.
There's something there.
That's exactly. That's how you potty train them. That's how you do everything. All right, here we go. Boy, we got a lot to get to.
Israel.
Let's start with Israel. There are so many horrifying things going on right now. The newest one that we're going to talk about is Biden's bill that he just signed. I think he already signed it, right?
Yeah, it's signed. It's done.
Excellent.
So we are cutting UNRWA funding, sending $3.8 billion to Israel. And the bill is limiting aid to Palestine Authority if the Palestinians initiate or support an international criminal court investigation against Israel for human rights crimes. So added to the bill is you can't investigate war crimes.
We're helping contribute to the genocide and the war crimes that are fully documented on TikTok and all social media by the IDF soldiers who are perpetrating it and the leaders of the Israeli government who from October 8th on have been announcing their war crimes and their intention of war crimes. But we will cut aid if Palestinians ever try to seek any justice.
Yeah. And I mean, the point is they don't want the Palestinian Authority to ever have power there. So that leaves a vacancy for whoever Israel chooses is going to run whatever mock government they try to put up in the shambles that's left there.
I mean, okay. I know there's a lot of, first of all, I mean, there's so many different levels to this that are just so disgusting. I don't even know which part we talk about first, but the weapons that are going to Israel that are being used for war crimes, we've just investigated, apparently, the U.S. has investigated and decided that no, Israel's totally compliant. They are not doing war crimes, and so, and they're not hindering humanitarian assistance. Again, in spite of video documentation on a daily basis, the flower massacre since the first one, which was horrifying. And just like with the hospital attack, the first flower massacre was, no, we would never do it. It was Palestinians who were running like crazy and swarming the truck. And then, of course, that falls apart because it was just snipers shooting at the people they're starving and luring them in. But since then, just like with the hospitals, there have been, I don't know, a dozen more where they're just, being shot and killed.
They've bombed every hospital. Remember when the whole debate in the initial one was did they bomb that one hospital or was it an accident and whatever? It doesn't matter what happened with that. They bombed them all now. So you can't blame Hamas for bombing every single hospital, half the greenhouses, half the trees, every factory. I mean, not factory. Every
food
warehouse, except for 2 are
schools,
destroyed
universities
in the entire country.
Yeah.
Mosques, universities, schools. They've made the place unlivable, and that's been their goal from the start. And whatever comes of this war, there's no outcome where Gazans, even if you ended it today, have anything sustainable to go back to.
That's right. No, they've got nothing. And the fact that, it is just such an eerie disconnect that we all know the truth. And yet they will keep on saying things like, we investigated ourselves and there was no issue there. And then just move on. Like what is the consequence? What do we do to fix that? Right? Like the UN Security Council that finally, the US didn't even vote for it, but for the first time after vetoing ceasefires, yesterday they abstained. Of course, they tried to do something, I guess on Friday, Russia and China objected to the proposal from the US for their ceasefire. And there was a lot of hay made of that. But then, of course, it was explained to anybody with a brain that it was because it wasn't binding, it wasn't permanent, it was dependent on Hamas releasing hostages. Of course, nobody ever talks about Israel releasing the 3,500 hostages that they've taken since October 7th as part of the deal, at least publicly. But so finally, today or yesterday, the Security Council, the UN Security Council ceasefire is approved. And today there is
temporary ceasefire.
It's not binding, it's temporary, it's like they've completely squashed it. So what's the point of the UN actually?
Yeah, and that little minimal effort to curtail, to publicly make a statement saying we don't support, not even we don't support, saying Israel should comply with international law, yada, yada, the basic obvious, like you should do this thing. That alone led to Israel's delegation not meeting with the president as planned. Yeah. And I want to show the video of Kirby, the Pentagon spokesperson. This is how meaningless this bill is. Listen to him. He's basically like, this speech is for Israel. It's not for the U.S. He's telling them how meaningless this legislation was that they just passed.
Don, what was the president's reaction to the decision by Netanyahu not to send an Israeli delegation this week?
I got to tell you, Steve, we're kind of perplexed by this. A couple of points that need to be stated and, in fact, restated. Number one, it's a non-binding resolution, so there's no impact at all on Israel and Israel's ability to continue to go after Hamas. Number two, as I said in my opening statement, it does not represent a change at all in our policy. It's very consistent with everything that we've been saying we want to get done here. And we get to decide what our policy is. The Prime Minister's office seems to be indicating through public statements that we somehow changed here. We haven't. And we get to decide what our policy is. It seems like the Prime Minister's office is choosing to create a perception of daylight here when they don't need to do that. So again, no change in our policy.
No change in our policy.
They're saying the quiet part out loud there that this has no impact on how Israel is conducting anything.
Yep.
And it's non-binding.
So who is that even for? I mean,
It's for Israel. It's for Israel. It's like, hey, you guys, we're on your team. You should just not worry too much about what we say because we're still going to support you forever. Hugs and kisses.
It's the bear hug diplomacy. Yeah. And it should be binding, but what happens when the biggest, military power in the world decides it's not, right? It's like the thing that they did, that Bush W did. What is it called? For The Hague, that we will storm The Hague if they ever try to charge any U.S. people with the war crimes, any presidents or the U.S. with war crimes, which, by the way, is also why they protected Russia about like a year ago from being charged with war crimes, because once that starts with any of the superpowers, they know that, they're next to fall. It's why they didn't try to impeach Trump on corporate corruption, because there would go pretty much everybody in Congress. I mean, they're all.
Well, I think what's interesting is this is all coinciding with us losing power globally. And what's going to happen is we're going to lose power at the UN. And it's going to all, like, we at this point control international law through our influence. But we are going to be, this is not making the U.S. any more safer, because we're losing our power at the UN, for one.
Yeah. When you have Guyana calling us out, right, and having, but it's been one after another of heads of state speaking about U.S. actions and complicity in genocide. in a way that I think is unusual as opposed to the previous several decades, because we have lost our standing. I mean, since the beginning, for decades now anyway, but like now it is just so clear.
I think that is what's changed, is we've lost the facade with our own people that we have that's standing. The world has known for a while.
Right.
But we're the bullies in the world. But now Americans are waking up to like, oh, we're not really the nice guys. You know, we're not the good guys here.
Yeah.
And we're not. And that's, you know, not to bring it back to Jill Stein, but like that's the opportunity for the left to wedge in our viewpoints and wake people up to reality. Use this and then say, point next to our healthcare system, which everyone also recognizes is extremely fucked.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you know, and that is why things like the media, you know, in addition to money being taken out of politics, I think we got to take it out of the media. You know, this new Pew poll that just came out says 48% of Americans did not know whether the death count in the war on Gaza was higher for Israelis or Palestinians. The death toll currently stands at 1,200 in Israel and 32,000 Palestinians. And so when you see the power, the hold that our media, corporate media, still has on the general public in this country, in spite of, you know, it's like a headline public, even though people are taking to the streets, right? And there's been one study after another, you know, this latest one, proud to have been part of the team that computationally analyzed the New York Times biased coverage of Israel and Palestine. Part of a broader effort by Writers Against the War on Gaza. So, you know, this is, since October 7th, the Times reported on anti-Semitism 5 times more often than on Islamophobia, right? Like every time we talk about anything happening in Gaza, right away we talk about October 7th, we talk about Hamas, and we talk about the hostages.
And
some people still,
mainstream media still has people on unquestioned who will bring up beheaded babies,
rape,
not just rape, but like a rape,
like a systematic,
planned systematic raping program that Hamas did. And it goes unchallenged. And so when you see 48% of the country doesn't know which side here is getting obliterated, I mean, it's just like essentially nothing has happened to Israel since the attack. I mean, there have been soldiers killed here and there, but there hasn't been a terrorist movement against Israel. There's no equality in this situation at all. And the only reason people think there is because of our mainstream media and MSNBC and CNN and Fox.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we have that great Boston Yusuf, but I don't know. Do we want to play that now? Let's give it a shot.
He says it better than I ever will. So
both of us. I know. I'm stuttering through.
Propaganda is not just about lies. It's about distraction. Just take a small sample of the cliches they use in order to divert the conversation. I'm sure you heard these one after the other. What is a proportionate response? Does Israel have the right to defend itself? Do you condemn Hamas? Does Israel have the right to exist? October 7th, decapitated babies. Women were raped. Babies were put in the oven. They are killing babies. October 7th. Why don't the Arab take in the Palestinians? Where is the outrage when Muslims kill other Muslims? Why don't you talk about Syria, Libya, Sudan, Yemen? October 7th, you are anti-Semitic. You are a Jew hater. You are a terrorist sympathizer. Do you condemn Hamas? October 7th. We will talk about everything except the killing that is happening every day as we sit here discussing bullshit talking points. This style of distraction is inspired by a very old debating trick called gish galloping. Gish galloping is a way where one side throws distraction, lies, and half-truth at you in order to confuse you, distract you away from the real issues. We have seen this on display every day since the war started. History only started on October 7th. We are not allowed to talk about what came before. You criticize Israel, you want ceasefire, you hate the Jews. What about the decapitated babies? So now they shut down the conversation. They turn it emotional, visceral, but I don't blame them. They do what other countries do. They lie. They lie and they lie and they lie and they lie. And when you think they are done, They go like DJ Khaled, another one. No, I don't blame them. I blame the Western media, the same media that gave us lectures and history lessons about transparency, honesty, journalistic integrity, and holding people accountable.
I pretty much lost all my Facebook friends also. That happened in 2020. But that's, I mean, it is.
I lost not just Facebook friends. I told one of my aunts to get fucked. So I'm losing family here, but that's all right. You got to do what you got to do.
I mean, a genocide. And I hear people, people will say the thing of, white phosphorus. I mean, that's the other thing is like the damage that Israel is doing to Palestine, to Gaza, they're not going to escape it. I mean, those environmental calamities that they are causing, that's going to actually affect them also. It's just so, it's it's lunatic party.
Everybody's so short term with their thinking. I mean, look, the Twin Towers came down and all the first responders got cancer. What do you think is happening in Israel right now? I mean, in Gaza right now with all the destruction there? Like anyone sticking around is probably getting exposed to tons of carcinogenic things. And
the water system. So anything you grow there, the sewage, I mean, lots of soldiers have come down with dysentery because of it. I mean, obviously that's what it's doing to the Palestinians, but like it's also affecting them. I mean, it's just insanity to see how little desire there is to make peace, to move forward. We are the main impediment. Absolutely. All right. I know we have, what do you think? Should we
have so much. Look, we went along with Dr. Jill Stein because who wouldn't? So let's just move on to some other topics. I think,
all right.
Unless you want to get some of that stuff.
No, I think you're right. Cause it is late. Okay. I'm going to do a little fun in between our topics.
Yeah, baby.
Oh my God, look how lucky I am. Look at that. Pat, I forgot to remove it too. So that just means there's going to be more possibility. And I should do it again just so we have a fun video.
Yeah. Hey, our show is half as drunk as we used to be.
Yeah, baby.
All right, I'm removing it this time. I got it. I'm pushing all the
Say
buttons.
what? I got it. Here we go.
This is the most election of our lifetime.
Much progress together, but we know that there is still work to be done, which is why we are going to organize like never before and ensure we are turning out the vote. And we know that, there's so much at stake and that Donald Trump continues to pose a threat in so many ways. He continues to spew racist rhetoric and to devalue our community. But we know that the president's vision, values, his commitment to faith, family, and hard work are what's going to continue to propel the Latino vote this election cycle.
Well, folks, I have to tell you straight up, I like y'all, but I couldn't resist that little babe.
All right, not the worst. I mean, every week he'll probably have something worse than that we could show. But
no, come on, it's horrendous. I mean, for God's sakes, like every single thing that they want to get Trump on, he is just as bad or worse. Whether it's rape, please. Racism, calling them illegals, and now he's trying, and the border bill, genocide. Like, who wants to lose this worse?
Look, on issues, he's terrible all across the board. But if you're a Democrat putting your only hope into this guy, who clearly the people on stage running this thing were ready to introduce and do a handoff, and he just goes wandering off to pet a baby like it's a cute little
and
Labrador.
Breathe in its face. Like, by the way, I mean, okay, COVID still around, killing over 1,000 people every week. But like even before COVID, that's a baby. Don't breathe your old man breath in my baby's face. Like, I don't know, like nobody should ever be that close to somebody's baby. That's crazy. Oh, he's so vile.
Yeah. I mean, they're in trouble. They're in big trouble. But when people say, well, we'll get to James Carville in a bit, but well,
you gave it away. You gave away our worst of the week.
I just did a Biden. Like,
say what?
You got something. Never mind.
We're going to do a quick COVID. There was not a ton of stuff, although Biden's doing this very strange thing where he's saying, well, 1 million people were killed under the other guy, but also I got people out of their homes and back to work, even in the face of wave after wave of COVID.
So he's bragging about getting people back into the workplace, which resulted in this. So here's the thing: if you're,
I'm starting my wine, just so you know. I got it. I'm drinking through it.
But if you're a Democrat, like, look, he won the election in 2020 based on COVID. COVID saved his ass. He was losing handily to Trump, but people didn't trust how Trump would handle COVID, and we haven't even gotten into the debate yet between Trump and Biden, where Trump gets to say, "Look, I handled COVID better." And he won't be wrong. I mean, he could argue a lot of these facts. Emotionally, it's going to hit people a little different. They're going to go, oh, we remember injecting bleach and all that stuff. But if you look at the actual data, he can run on, hey, the vaccine program you're bragging about was mine, and it ramped up on the exact same speed. If you follow the trajectory of the vaccination program, it was, what was it? Operation Warp Speed.
Yeah.
So, he bragging about getting people back into work and pretending COVID is over is not going to play well with a lot of people who understand COVID is still a real risk.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's lost a lot of people on COVID. There is, again, though, this complete sort of like whitewashing of it and people ascribing all the deaths to unvaccinated and the MAGA crowd, even though Trump himself is vaccinated. And
well, it's just like Gaza. There's so many people misinformed on all of it that, it's not wrong politically for him to maybe make this argument, if you're looking at just how does the public feel about it in this case. But we haven't seen Trump run against him yet. And that's where he's going to take some hits from Trump, the guy who literally was talking about injecting bleach,
I mean,
my point on this is like, okay, you take COVID, you take the genocide, you got all these segments of people so disappointed by Biden that it's going to have a very large impact on, like, that's like COVID people, it's a red line on how he handled COVID.
Yep.
The genocide is a red line for a lot of people. You got those across the board. That funding cop cities, that's a red line. So
I mean, and Trump just came out, I think yesterday, in an interview saying we got to finish up in Gaza, and the world is turning on Israel, and this is really bad for them. And by the way, like, I think
he's gonna pull that on COVID. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, on everything, and he won't be wrong. And maybe he would do everything just as badly. I mean, I don't know. People are like, he'd be worse on genocide. I don't know how much worse you could be, but okay. I mean, I'm sure, every time I say we couldn't go much lower, we somehow manage, but it doesn't matter because Biden is so bad. He's so bad on every single issue. So you take away all of the protections, you take away paid sick leave, you take away free vaccines and free treatment. You take away masking. You take away
no effort to protect children in schools when most of it is spread by kids in schools. You give people on average 1.5 times a year they're getting COVID. Kids higher.
Right. And now we're seeing these huge spikes in pancreatic cancer, which they're linking to COVID infection.
Right. And I'm sorry, we probably have a new audience here somewhat. So I think the important part with COVID that people don't need to understand is the media has sold you on this acute phase only issue. Like you get COVID, you survive now. Oh, you survive now. You survive now. But it's causing brain damage. COVID,
even in mild
cases
cases
are aging people's brains 7 to 20 years, depending on which studies you're looking at. And these are not like outlier studies. These are the main studies you're not getting told about on TV.
I mean, by the way, I just have to say this was in People magazine this week. So People magazine did this article, COVID linked to lower IQ, poor memory, and other negative impacts. And when you go into the article, and we'll show, but like mild cases even. So, this thing, as you were saying, Pat, like it's not just about death. It's not just about hospitalization, even though it's great that we are avoiding those, but mission not accomplished, because when people are getting sick repeatedly with something that is dysregulating their immune system on a population-wide scale, we are seeing more cancer, more dementia, more now measles, RSV. Like we are becoming a sicker society.
And the point is, if you pay attention to the actual scientists on this stuff, not the political messaging from any party, the scientists have been screaming this entire time to take all this seriously and look beyond the acute phase. Like, yes, you got COVID, you got over it. Maybe you know someone who had long COVID, but what you don't know is that you may have heart issues in 4 years because of the damage done to your vascular system, cardiovascular system, or cancer rates are going to skyrocket because they know the association between cancer and what's happening,
right?
The inflammatory nature of COVID. There are all these levels of protection,
the cascading effects of
of threats to people and their children and themselves that people are not aware of. They think it's an outlier that people get long COVID,
and it's just
roll the dice
it's like
because I got to live my life.
Yep.
But if the media was just, hey, don't even call for anything as far as lockdowns or any of that stuff. But just if the media was just presenting this evidence to the public would feel different about it, because poll after poll shows when the public thinks there's a threat from COVID, they take it seriously and support things like masking. We're not talking about vaccine stuff. We're not talking about lockdowns. We're talking about masking and putting in air filtration
filters
to make people
ventilation.
safer at work.
Simple testing, we should have tests the way they do in Europe and Asia that are way cheaper, are current with the current strains, and that do flu, RSV, and COVID. They sell them in Europe for $1. And you're hard pressed to find an up-to-date COVID rapid test here.
Instead, we have a CDC here recommending going to work a day after your flu breaks, which data shows that there's no fever. Your fever breaks.
Yeah. Stop spreading misinformation.
There's no correlation. Well, there might be correlation, but you don't know. Most people with COVID are asymptomatic, first off. So you should wait till there's a gap after testing.
And most contagious. So they say between 40 and 60% of COVID infections come from somebody who is either asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic. So just because somebody is coughing a lot or is sick, clearly sick in front of you, does not mean that there isn't somebody else who you're just like, oh, that person's fine. And that you don't know where it's coming from.
And the average person who just had COVID, who had a flu break a day ago, is symptomatic. They are spreading. They can infect you. It's the bottom line. So this idea that people should rush, we're not calling on politicians to implement, lockdowns and all that crazy stuff and whatever you want to think. But masking harms nobody. It's not a civil right to not wear a mask in schools and public situations. And at least put it out there to the public more that they should do it, whether they choose to or not, whether you mandate it or not.
Yeah. Don't be scared of the real information. That's the thing, is it's very clear that from the moment that Biden came into power, every corporate media outlet was making a concerted effort to help him engineer the end of COVID.
Yeah. Well, this right here is his Mission Impossible moment. You need to see it
accomplished. You've been pre-gaming way harder than I have. I have to catch up. Yeah, that's over 800,000 deaths under Biden with the vaccine. And, that is why on some level, not on some level, listen, I despise Trump, loathe him. And I didn't feel safe when he was president. When he assassinated Soleimani, I thought we might go to war right away. When COVID was, starting, and he's such a buffoon, I was terrified. And as much as I cannot stand Biden and truly despise him and did not vote for him in 2020, I at least thought, okay, there will be a certain level of the adult in the room kind of idea. We're going to get things back with COVID. And just like with life, okay, it's still going to suck, but this is going to buy us a little bit of time. And we're going to get our next person in 2024. I don't know how. It is measurably worse under Biden. COVID is, the environment, cops, carceral system, cop cities, 2 world wars. We are way worse. And the one thing that was better under Trump was at least most of corporate media was antagonistic to him. And now they just all fall on their knees and suck his balls.
Well, too many people think if this was a real risk, Biden and his responsible administration would handle this and be telling us about this. But meanwhile, you've got the CDC under Biden telling people to go let your kids go to school and go to work after a day of not having fever symptoms, which is the most unscientific base. First off, they changed it to 5 days initially based on the
Delta.
Airline industry lobbying Biden to do that because people weren't flying. So they're like, so the airline industry changed it to 5, and scientists were screaming then, holy fuck, you can't make it 5 days.
Yeah.
And now it's 1 day.
Well, it's changing it from 6 feet to 3 feet for an airborne virus. It's all just not based on science at all.
UN relief czar, he's got long COVID stepping down. People aren't talking about long COVID. They pretend it doesn't exist. Every time you get infected, you have a cumulative risk of developing long COVID. So that's the important part here is you might get COVID once, but don't relax and think it was mild. I didn't get harmed by it.
Or that you're immune now.
Or I'm somehow immune, because the more you get it, the more, these are all different studies, but there aren't studies showing that you're actually developing this immunity that protects you from any long-term effects.
There is no immunity to an ever mutating novel virus. There just is not. And the other thing is, I will say that the people who don't trust the science on COVID, and think that they're being lied to, the same people who are telling us that there is not a genocide happening that we're complicit in Gaza are the people saying COVID's just the flu. So, move forward with those people at your own risk.
And if you look at the funding, and we talk about this on our show all the time, but since we might have some new viewers, if you look at the funding behind the anti-COVID, the minimizing COVID crowd, it's the same anti-climate folks funding it all.
That was really disappointing for me. I had watched a little bit of George Galloway over the years, but not a ton. And then when he won, and I was so excited, a few weeks ago, and I started listening to him more, and I think it was on Useful Idiots, but I'm not entirely, I think it was. And he said, well, I'm anti-quackery, anti-green, and anti-woke.
Yeah.
And that is that's like the Venn diagram of the people who, the anti-woke crowd are the COVID minimizers, are now starting this path, as we saw, and we showed a few weeks ago, moving towards being climate change deniers. And they are all being funded by the same Koch brother, Brownstone.
Right. And that movement, largely where they grew prominence and sort of started dividing the left was the libertarian trucker movement.
Yep.
Up in Canada, where truckers were protesting because of mandates. And that was all funded by a libertarian billionaire.
Yep.
Same guy that gave Jimmy Dore's show shit ton of money. He was spreading money all around to a lot of these bullshit libertarian. Yeah. Well, he was spreading money to real leftist shows as well. But his ideology was very libertarian, very, pro-corporate, anti-worker message.
Yep.
And they realized they could use this, and if maybe they get people on board, and then they start spreading more. They're receptive to the anti-COVID message. Well, now we can push a little bit of the anti-climate message.
It's like, yeah.
And if you notice, watch some of these shows, and you'll see Door's show, for example, sort of mocking climate stuff. It was like it's sort of a farce, and that's just one. I don't want to be Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome guy, but the leftists I knew that worked on that show, which I knew a lot of leftists on that show personally, they're gone. They left.
Yeah, you really do see money is at the root of all evil. All right, what are we on now? I kind of feel like we're pushing it.
I want one positive.
Okay.
There's a new drug out for
people who are
immunocompromised people. FDA just approved it Friday, known as Pemgarda.
Good luck saying it. If you can't say it, you can't get it.
Anyway, Evusheld, another word I can't say.
Pemgarda.
Didn't work as well with the new variants, so there's some protection for some immunocompromised people that didn't exist until this week. So
that's good. That is good to know. We need to throw a lot more money at research and science, as opposed to what Biden told people to do, which was use your money, state money, for more cops.
Yeah, money was slotted for COVID, and it went to funding police departments under Biden.
That is the priority. All right, moving on. Here we go.
Yeah, baby.
Here.
All right.
This
so for here, we
perfectly.
Usually get an inspirational speaker or somebody we want to listen to. This was a collaboration between a group that we're going to see their name on screen here, and from NPR and Goodman. Wait, no, what's her name?
I don't know. Democracy Now!
Democracy Now! Yeah, she does the voiceover
on manufacturing.
Beep, cutting you off. Beep, beep.
Propaganda. Many use the word when talking about countries like North Korea, Kazakhstan, Iran. Countries viewed as authoritarian through the lens of the Western media. Press freedom, freedom of thought. People use those terms when talking about countries like the United States, France, Australia, democracies. In 1988, Noam Chomsky co-authored a book with Edward Herman called Manufacturing Consent. It blasted apart the notion that media acts as a check on political power, that media inform the public, serve the public, so that we can better engage in the political process. In fact, media manufacture our consent. They tell us what those in power need them to tell us so we can fall in line. Democracy is staged with the help of media that work as propaganda machines. Media operate through 5 filters. The first has to do with ownership. Mass media firms are big corporations. Often they're part of even bigger conglomerates. Their endgame, profit. And so it's in their interest to push for whatever guarantees that profit. Critical journalism takes second place to the needs and interests of the corporation. The second filter exposes the real role of advertising. Media costs a lot more than consumers will ever pay. So who fills the gap? Advertisers. And what are the advertisers paying for? Audiences. And so it isn't so much that the media are selling you a product, their output. They're also selling advertisers a product, you. How does the establishment manage the media? That's the third filter. Journalism cannot be a check on power because the very system encourages complicity. Governments, corporations, big institutions know how to play play the media game. They know how to influence the news narrative. They feed media scoops, official accounts, interviews with the experts. They make themselves crucial to the process of journalism. So those in power and those who report on them are in bed with each other. If you want to challenge power, you'll be pushed to the margins. Your name won't be down. You won't be getting in. You've lost your access. You've lost the story. When the media, journalists, whistleblowers, sources stray away from the consensus, they get flat. That's the fourth filter. When the story is inconvenient for the powers that be, you'll see the flak machine in action, discrediting sources, trashing stories, and diverting the conversation. To manufacture consent, you need an enemy, a target. That common enemy is the fifth filter. Communism, terrorists, immigrants, a common enemy, a boogeyman to fear helps corral public opinion. 5 filters, one big media theory. Consent is being manufactured all around you, all the time.
It's crazy to me that book came out, in the early 70s, late 60s. It's so clear. It's so well done. Matt Taibbi wrote a book called Hate Inc., I think in 2016, which was also fantastic. That was kind of a follow-up a bit. It's just so clear what's happening, but I think the people who need it the most are the ones who 1988 says the runs. Really? Wow. It's so funny. The videos that I see of Noam Chomsky talking about it from then. And when they did the documentary, they look the video looks so old.
Well, he's pretty old.
No, not him, Pat. What? Ageist much?
Yeah. Well, I do.
No, but the video of it just looks so old. The film. Anyway. All right. We should move on really quickly, right? It's so late. Should we just keep going?
Yeah. So normally we keep our show under 2 hours or 2 hours. Hour and a half is our goal. We added a second show, so we're trying to keep it shorter now. But because we had Jill on for so long, I think we're going to just keep rolling through the show. What do you think?
All right. But let's
shorten
faster, louder, funnier. We're going to just kind of go a little faster, right? All right. So what are we on?
We're spinning. We're still spinning for shots.
No, we just spun.
What?
Nope. We did a shot, and that was yeah. We're on. Look at that.
Let's talk economy.
We've been drinking a lot, you guys, because we pregame while we're prepping, and then we're keep going. All right. Economy. Where are we in the economy? Look at this. High food prices in California across the nation called into question by the feds. And you know why? Because if you can see all the small writing, pretty much every single necessity has the price tag has risen since 2020, and for absolutely no discernible reason except for corporate greed.
Pure corporate greed. So when Biden's out there running on the economy's great, obviously people not already doing well in the economy aren't feeling that way. But the idea, the Democrats keep pushing this message that we just got to get it out to people that the economy is doing great, or
change the message.
Great.
Yeah.
But no, when your food prices are so high, when rent is off the charts.
Yeah. People can't buy houses. They can't afford rent.
Yeah. You can't con people into the reality sets in when you're paying that much for food and your bills are high. I see rich people complaining about the price of groceries. That they have no idea what regular folks are going to be.
Yeah. And I think the thing that might finally put it over the edge, because they're criminalizing homelessness. I just saw something where AI can now detect homeless encampments, and to criminalize homelessness, which is the effect of the greed, the lack of regulations, the lack of government oversight, or forcing people to pay their workers a living wage, denying, there was just, I think we have it here somewhere, where banks are buying up 44% of all single family home purchases were by private investors in 2023.
Yeah.
They buy them with cash.
Private investors, we're talking banks too. We're talking, there are like 5 major companies that
it's like
run the whole world. Blackstone
and Vanguard, I think, are the 2 that buy everything.
Sorry,
all the houses.
I'm having cat wars behind me.
But I think, go ahead.
But they look, the number one contributing factor to homelessness is the cost of housing in your city. So when 44% of these single family homes are bought up by banks who are regulating the prices, it forces rent to go up in these places. And then when rent is too high, you have homelessness. It's a simple formula. You want to get rid of homelessness or eliminate or alleviate, you have to have affordable housing. And we don't have a system that allows affordable housing to exist.
Right. Because they don't actually want to get rid of homelessness. They want to criminalize it, because that's why they're throwing more money and building more jails around the whole country. They're building more jails. They are all these cop cities, they're taking... Yeah.
Even on a local level, all our governments.
Pat, go ahead. You just keep interrupting me and go.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
On a local level, our government is captured even on a local level. So on a local level, your mayor is owned by the local people that want less homelessness.
Even Democratic mayors
want breaks on business stuff, and it costs. You give a local city $10 million to solve homelessness, and they put up a parking lot that takes 7 years to build, and say, "There, we tried."
Or why don't we get more cops? I mean, that's what always happens, right? Like, look, this is what's happening in New York. Senators Gillibrand and Schumer got over $104 million in grants for local projects in Manhattan. 90 million, so almost 90% of that, is going to an armory to establish a state-of-the-art mobilization station and professional military presence. Cop City on steroids. Totally Democratic run state. Here's Baltimore. New $1 billion jail will be the most expensive state-funded project in history. And around the country, this is where cop cities everywhere. Every single state, I think, but 3 have cop cities planned for them. So they don't want to get rid of homelessness. Obviously, they don't, because they're either really horrible at their job, or their goals aren't their stated goals. Because without prison labor, we don't have firemen, we don't have people making robocalls for fucking like Bloomberg, we don't have cereal being made. I mean, like, we rely on prison, which is slave labor. We rely on slave labor.
100%. And let's not forget that, like, you've got Biden, who came into power under the George Floyd Black Lives Matter movement, George Floyd protests, and Black Lives Matter had unanimous support across both parties. Both parties supported it, and now he's turned it upside down. Both parties don't support Black Lives Matter. Now you got Democrats screaming about, oh yeah, we do need to worry about the border, fentanyl, all this stuff that's not true. If you had an opposition party, they would be out there saying, look, none of this is actually true. Look, crime rates are down. Immigrants don't cause crime, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But we don't have that.
So, okay. So what I was going to say before I was interrupted.
I'll cut you off again.
Was that I think the thing that is finally going to penetrate, like, obviously working class people know that the economy sucks, that they can't afford homes, that they don't have any money saved, that they're in massive credit card debt, that they can't go to a doctor, that they can't afford a small, $400 emergency. Like, we all know that. But the people in power who could actually change something until we, massively force them to, I think the thing that will finally click for them is that our whole infrastructure is falling apart, right? We've seen one Boeing plane after another, doors flying off, wheels flying off. I got to put my readers on. Yeah. What'd you say? And the whistleblower dead. Yeah, right. But like, this is, one thing after another. And this was, but this was just this year, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 already this year, major issues, plane nosedives, doors fly off, plane rolls off the taxiway, engine bursts into flame, mid-air hydraulic leak, so that is going to affect just regular people who think that they're above the poor people, right? They're going to put oil drilling and toxic chemicals in poor neighborhoods. They're going to put train tracks by poor neighborhoods. They're going to
Palestine, obviously,
right? Exactly. Flint water still doesn't have, or Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean water. All of those things, the powerful, wealthy elite are telling themselves that they can protect themselves from. What they can't protect themselves from is flying, although I have seen now some of them refuse to fly on Boeings. But like we just had in the middle of the night, this bridge collapse, which probably everybody in the DC area has had to cross the Francis Scott Key Bridge, right? So this happened in the middle of the night. A boat, which by the way was commissioned or owned or by I'm gonna get it all wrong, so let me just make sure I have it here. The company that chartered the ship that destroyed the Key Bridge was just sanctioned by regulators for silencing whistleblowers, raising safety concerns. That's Maersk. The regulations that we have done away with and the permission for these companies to self-regulate and self-inspect, I think that will start to be felt by powerful people. But who the fuck knows? Because I would have thought that COVID would have changed their minds too, and now they're all getting long COVID. I don't know. They go down in their own little submarines and blow themselves up. Nobody gives a fuck.
But the bridge highlights an important point, which is that even Biden's infrastructure bill only had money to solve a tenth of the problem.
Right.
Like this is the landmark. Holy shit! This is our government finally
best
carrying
climate bill ever.
Yeah, finally doing something about it, and it's only going to get at best maybe 10% of the problem solved. So 10% of our bridges are collapsing, regardless of a boat hitting it. Our water supply is so bad in poor neighborhoods right now.
Yeah, and again, the thing that so I'm going to cancel my own point. But yeah, thanks, Mayor Pete. Like it's the trains, it's planes, it's bridges. Like he had one job that he thought was going to be a cush job, and he's failing spectacularly. It would be hilarious if it were
that job. They gave him that job as the "you can't fuck this up" job. They gave Kamala Harris
hold my beer.
They gave Kamala Harris immigration and the border. It's now the number one issue on. I'm not saying. Look, her support on immigration is, she lost the entire left on it.
Yeah.
But now people are like, Democrats are supporting the Republican view on it. This is the danger of having a Democratic Party that isn't an actual opposition party.
We are just watching the ratchet effect happen with police, with COVID, with war. Yeah. By the way, I just want to thank you, Cora. I will always go drunk. That's my whole.
I need someone on my side here mission. Once in a while.
Yeah. So we read that study probably a year ago now that COVID actually damages a decision-making process in the brain that warns you about danger and allows you to be more make yourself more vulnerable. And I don't know if this is the correlation that's why all these things are happening and planes are almost colliding and people can't mind fog. But if that billionaire submarine explosion illustrated one thing for me, it's that billionaires actually it doesn't matter that it's going to affect them. I thought there was going to be more self-preservation. There isn't. What Israel's doing to Gaza right now, and then they want to inhabit it, right? They're selling the land. Which is so disgusting. But they are having property sales at temples in the U.S. to buy waterfront land in Gaza. And who's going to occupy that what's going to happen when these disgusting people come from Jersey to live on the shore in Gaza is they are going to be eating and drinking and breathing toxic fumes and
it's
awful. All right. That wasn't
There's
me
so
going
much
fast.
misinformation out there that we have a long ways to go. And, I don't want to dissuade anyone from supporting leftist stuff, but when you talk to people that are normie Dem friends, they are woefully unaware of 90% of what we talk about. So
yeah. All right, we should really move on, huh?
Yeah, let's move on.
All right. Oh, we have to spin. Oh, well, we only have one more thing. Do we need to spin? Just to see if we get a shot. Okay,
Sure.
sorry.
Spin.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah, baby.
Shocker. I can't believe it.
We'll show puppets while we're doing a shot, and we'll come back with some real news.
I got to get a shot.
Maybe.
My shot with my wine.
It's gonna be hot.
Maybe she needed a little bit of levity too.
Yeah.
I think we were her fourth interview, Dr. Stein's fourth interview today. So she was amazing. But maybe she just needed a little bit of fun too. All right.
So I'm thinking we, since it's been a long show, we should end on worst of the week and then kind of skip our 24. We'll go out on one good thing like we always do.
All right. All right. Worst of the week. You already blew the surprise. No, is James Carville, who just recently said in his New York Times article or interview with Maureen Dowd, we didn't even clip the part that he actually said about the women. Are you kidding me?
No, that's
Pat.
it right there. No, it's right there. It's right there.
Oh, you really? Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Oh my God. You guys, I drank way too much. Okay. The Democrats have been obsessed with Biden bleeding black male voters. A suspicion of mine is that there are too many preachy females dominating the culture of his party. Don't drink beer, don't watch football, don't eat hamburgers. This is not good for you. The message is too feminine. Everything you're doing is destroying the planet. You got to eat your peas. If you listen to Democratic elites, NPR is my go-to place for that. The whole talk is about women and women of color are going to decide this election. I'm like, well, 48% of the people that vote are males. Do you mind if they have some consideration? Wow. He is just one of the most repugnant people in the whole world, buying into every single disgusting right-wing talk. That could be like a Glenn Beck.
Yeah, no, the left is really leaning in on this. Like, hey, we got to be able to say retarded. We have to like be misogynist. That's where your audience lies. The normal people that are like that. That's literally Democratic bots on Twitter are pushing that message.
You just got to be a little more racist.
A little bit of racism as a treat.
A little bit more racism. It is so gross. And oh look. Oh, are we gonna? Do you want? Let's just not.
No, we have a whole long video, but it's long, and I don't.
It's not even worth it. He's so gross, but it's just really depressing to see. The lesson that Democrats always learn is go further right. We got to get those Romney Republicans, and sometimes they're right. It's all of it. Like they're the Lincoln Project now. That's supposed to be an opposition party, and they are no longer. They are just the other side of the Republicans. It's one big party.
And leaning right every time out of fear is pushed the entire dialogue to the right, whether it's immigration, genocide, healthcare, whatever. We have to just win over those right guys so we can't talk about the stuff on the left. They're always going to push that because the corporate people funding both parties want that pushed to the right.
They will sell every single marginalized group under the bus. And watching the lack of care, what's happening in Gaza, starving these people and just slaughtering them, this genocide, and excusing it, that is what's coming for the rest of us unless we stop it. I mean, truly, it's a test bubble. I do think that this is a test bubble. So working power, direct action, there I go. I fucking froze.
That's all right. We can end it on this. This is probably the right time anyway.
We love you guys. Cheers. Keep punching up.
All right. We always show one good thing at the end, but appreciate Dr. Jill Stein. I'm sporting the greens. I love Cornel West. I'm not here to be a campaign ad for Jill Stein, but look, she's on the ballot. She's got the right issues, so I'm supporting her. So.
Yeah, me too. And we're so grateful that she came on. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us for this whole time. And we'll see you Sunday. No show tomorrow.
Sunday at 5. PST.
Sunday at 5. Keep punching up. Thank you.
The labor movement and the climate justice movement need to work together every step of the way. We need to ensure a clean energy future and a just energy transition that will help us create good union jobs. We are sick of the middle and working class picking up the tab for the destruction brought upon us by the fossil fuel industry. We are tired of our patients not being able to afford their utility bills or going without utilities during extreme weather conditions made worse by the climate crisis. Because if we fight,